So Sam Polk has talked about how the company really has, like many restaurant companies, transformed during the pandemic. I mean, you guys started with one idea and then it really moved into another. Now he calls it really an omni-channel, fresh prepared food business. Can you kind of summarize a little bit about what happened and how Everytable has shifted?
Yeah, absolutely. So our core competency at Everytable is really making fresh prepared restaurant quality meals in a grab and go container. So they're really portable, and our mission is to make healthy food affordable and accessible to everyone. So during the pandemic, we were challenged, obviously. We had storefronts that were closing, right? But we really realized that it was our time to really lean into our mission. And so we pivoted really fast to supporting nonprofits, government agencies all across Los Angeles, providing our meals. So we partnered with the mayor of LA, and we were feeding 15,000 seniors a week at their homes directly from our kitchen. We're vertically integrated, so we actually run our own logistics team. So we scaled up super fast. We went from 25,000 meals a week to over 180,000 meals a week in about 6 to 8 weeks time. So we went from a fleet of 2 vans to over 50 vans. We went from a 4,000 square foot kitchen to 30,000 square foot kitchen. We ramped up production, and we really decided it was our time to service Los Angeles during a really, really challenging time when people were afraid and people couldn't leave their homes to access healthy food. So we decided we were going to meet people where they were. And that was our big pivot during COVID.
And that sounds like that's really fueled how the company has shifted. And so that now, I think the New York Times calls Everytable the Amazon of quinoa bowls. I mean, it's kind of amazing how that logistical feat, has now moved you into to realize kind of a new vision for the company. Can you?
Absolutely. When I joined Everytable, we thought we were just going to be a brick and mortar store with a commissary kitchen, right? We never in a million years imagined that we were going to be a fully vertically integrated omni-channel business. So we have a booming e-commerce business. We have a smart fridge business, which is like unmanned retail, but we're everywhere. Everytable comes to you wherever you are, at your home, at your work. You can order online. We can deliver to you. You can order online. You can pick it up at your local Everytable store and come see us. So yeah, we never in a million years could have imagined that we would be where we are doing food service, right? We worked with LHSA, LA Homeless Services Authority. We ramped up their Project Room Key. We were servicing people experiencing homelessness and temporary housing, women living in shelters. I mean, we would have never imagined in a million years that we would be doing the work that we're doing, but it really is sort of leaning into our mission in a whole new way.
So can you give me some numbers just to give, a summary of where you are? So how many restaurants or storefronts are there?
So we're operating 13 right now, but we're going to be opening 60 in 2022. Wow. So really expanding in the Southern California market in Orange County, San Diego, and Riverside, and of course, saturating LA. And then we're coming out to New York. So we're really excited about an East Coast expansion.
Oh, so you're opening when in New York, you think?
Probably Q2 or Q3.
Okay. So there's a commissary there.
Yep, we're building out a commissary. We have leases signed. We're going to be opening storefronts and also doing subscription e-commerce delivery to people's homes.
Okay, all right. So 13 storefronts in LA, expanding to 60, opening in New York, and then how can you say how many people use the subscription service?
Thousands. We're doing I don't know exact numbers right now. I think we have over 3,000 subscribers currently. But pre-pandemic we had less than 100.
Yeah. And actually the digital is one thing I wanted to ask you about. That's something that that's a new element, right? So that you're really building what you can do digitally.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we launched an e-commerce site during the middle of the pandemic, and we're going to be upgrading that over the next several months. And we're going to be building a native digital app. So we're looking forward to that in 2022. Guests will be able to order from the app, pay in store digitally. So it's cashless transaction if they prefer. So we're really looking to, speed up service, increase throughput, and make a really seamless experience for our guests, both online and in store.
Bryce, let me switch over to you and then ask a little bit about the franchising side. So Everytable really is, part of the mission is to try to make franchising accessible, to people, to more people, and to a broader audience. So tell me a little bit about what you do there.
Yeah, I joined 15 months ago, and I'm the executive director of our social equity franchise program. And to what you said, our company is really rooted in equity and equality. And we're transforming the food system, like Christina talked about, and making healthier food accessible and available to everyone. And so one of Sam's visions, which came about in like 2018, was like looking at the franchise industry and saying, hey, how can we disrupt that the same way we're disrupting the food system? So if you look at traditional franchising, for the most part, it's been a system where you have to have a significant amount of money, upfront capital to get into, years and years of experience. And so what we're saying is that, hey, we know that there are entrepreneurs, there are leaders that are out there who need the chance, but just thought it would happen for them because they don't have that money, they don't have that access, traditional capital or generational wealth to put up front. And they also need a little bit of mentorship and training to help them transition from being manager mindset to being leader to entrepreneur. And so I came aboard, like I said, last September, and was happy to be a part of the team alongside Christine and others to really codify the program and bring it to life. And so the nuts and bolts of it is, Lisa, is that we recruit entrepreneurs who have 1 to 2 years of management experience. Maybe they've worked in retail, hospitality, food, or maybe even logistics, but they've been really good at managing people. And then also we look at folks who have, that entrepreneur drive and don't, thrive in environments where they don't know everything, but they're going to learn how to figure it out. And then we also look for people who have that hospitality mentality, right? Who really want to take care of folks like that. They're there to serve. And so that's a big part of who we are. Folks can apply. Once they apply, they go through about 7-stage interview process. Our interview process is extremely thorough. And if they're accepted into the program, which is Everytable University, which is the training program, they are trained from 8 months up to a year on everything Everytable. So they start off with management training, then they actually step into a store and they are a manager during this whole process after they go through management training. So it's one thing to learn it for 5 to 6 weeks, but it's another thing to do it for 8 months to a year, perfecting that. And then alongside that, Lisa, we have leadership coursework that's folded in to their training. So right now they take 4 courses from communications, like how to do interviews, how do you speak to your employees and motivate them? How do you tell your story? To entrepreneurial mindset, like what are the tools and resources that you need in order to overcome the obstacles of being an entrepreneur? Because it's been marketed, as you probably know, as being the sexy thing that, hey, everybody wants to be an entrepreneur, they want to own a business, but you really don't understand the journey and on the loneliness that involves it. And so giving them the skill set and the tools to be able to get through that path, and then also financial management. So they're taking that course now, and then civic leadership. And so 8 months to a year and then also alongside that, they're working every day with Christine and the operations team. I'm working alongside them as well. And they're getting all kind of input and guidance and support throughout their training. By the end of the last 2 months or so, we start to look at franchise agreements, talk about that. We have a pro bono lawyer they'll be alongside them, and then they can kind of look at the documents, and then they sign on. If they're approved that they've performed throughout this 8 months to a year, and we assess that and they're approved, then they are, granted a franchise, and then they step into ownership and owning a store. So pretty significant. And the last thing I said, like I said in the beginning, no upfront cost at all. So
Right.
as you know, most traditional franchising, you can be anywhere from 50,000 all the way to 2 million that you have to bring to the table. That is zero on our end. So it is not too good to be true. Often people say it has to be too good to be true. Tell me something else. Like, no, there's no money up front. On the back end, once you become a franchise owner, you sign on to pay us back the initial build out of the store over 5 years at an 8% interest. And Lisa, those payments don't kick in until the store becomes profitable. And so
And they
we
earn a
feel like,
salary, right? So during
yeah,
the
and that's another thing too. You get a salary. I always tell people like, hey, I was an entrepreneur. I had my own catering company at one point, and I couldn't afford to pay myself anything. Like I had to use credit cards, and that's often the case. Like entrepreneurs starting their business, they can't afford. We didn't want to put people in that situation. So there is a built into the economics of the deal. It's a 3-year salary, the first 3 years that you become an owner.
yeah.
So we're excited about this model. We feel like it's going to be extremely transformative for the industry.
Yeah, and very rigorous. I mean, it sounds like the experience itself would just be fantastic to go through. So how many people, can you say how many people you have in the program or signed on? Anything?
Yeah, we launched the application in March, and then we welcomed our first cohort of folks, late July, early August. So we have 6 individuals that are in the program. 2 of them, Lisa, are external, meaning that they didn't work for Everytable before. They found out about the opportunity through our recruitment partners. And then the other 4 are actually like folks that Christine, Vanessa, Myra, and the operations team have been developing, and our managers that have been in our corporate stores. Some of them worked 2 years, some of them as long as 4 years. And they applied and they interviewed for the program. So they're currently in the program right now. They just started financial management class yesterday, actually. And then they took communications in October, and then entrepreneur mindset in November.
So we don't have anybody actually operating a store yet?
Not yet. So these 6 will be like the first, and they will be setting history. They're doing their history right now, right? They're the first in the program, but
yeah,
like in by summertime, they will be owners, and they would be, the first group. And so really excited about that as well.
So the timeline is this year, some of these folks will have their stores ready to go and open.
2022.
Yeah. Okay.
2022, yeah.
Okay. Okay, great. So what's your background? Do you come from the world of restaurant franchising, sorry?
I have a pretty interesting background. I started working in restaurants in college as a waiter, and then moved through and developed and ended up being all the way to a district manager and regional manager for Starbucks. Then actually was director of operations for 4 years with Magic Johnson Enterprises when he had partnerships with Starbucks, TGI Fridays, and Lowe's Theater.
Yeah, here in LA.
Yeah, this whole time, Lisa, and during that time, I was like, I want to open my own restaurant. I want to open my restaurant. So I started developing this concept. I started to look for funders, and then the Great Depression fell in, the second one in 2008, and all those people that said that they would do it, they stopped answering my phone calls. And so one of my mentors said, well, why don't you start a catering company and just test the concept out during this time? So I did that, Lisa, and actually during that time, one of my clients was American Heart Association. And then I actually catered for them for a while. And then they said, hey, we're starting a culinary program for kids and youth. We're looking for somebody who could be a chef instructor to run the program. I ended up getting that job and was able to work with over 10 to 11,000 of our young people in South LA and East LA. And so I'm getting why this is so important, because during that time is when I actually met Sam. So Sam was actually running his nonprofit called Feast. And one of the classes where I taught my kids was one of the classes where he was teaching Feast. Somebody sent me a white paper and said, what do you think about this program? Want to know your thoughts. They want to use our classroom. I said, it sounds great. It's definitely needed. Tell Sam if he ever needs somebody to come volunteer and do demos and talk to the participants about food, I'd love to do that. I did that, and we developed a relationship from there. And so I've been following him. And when he opened up Everytable, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Because I've always said somebody needs to open something where healthy food is affordable and accessible. But I didn't see anything in the marketplace at that time. And so I'd always said somebody would do it, and he's the right person because he has the vision and the mental fortitude and just the resiliency. And so I kept bothering him, Lisa, like, hey, do you need any help? I got restaurant background, I got food background. He's like, nah, not right now. So we just kept talking. And then last year, he reached out right around March or April and said, hey, the social equity franchise program, given your background in nonprofit over the last 6 to 7 years, along with your restaurant and franchise background, I think this would be a great role for you. Let me know what you think. Let's talk. And I looked at it and got to interview with folks like Christine and meet the team, and said, hey, this sounds like it's right up my alley. It's in alignment with my values. And I know who Sam is, and I know his vision, and I've worked alongside people who have vision. It's not easy to bring something to life that you see, but no one else, a lot of people don't see. But I like to be in those situations because I always like when I worked with Magic Johnson, folks used to say, do people of color drink coffee, enough coffee to bring these things into the neighborhood? And it started with 2 Starbucks and it ended up being 150. So I was just like, I want to be a part of this. So, and here I am.
Yeah. Okay. All right. This is fantastic. So, all right, Bryce, while I have you, since you kind of just said it, but give me in your words a summary of your big idea or the vision that really drives you to do what you're doing right now.
Yeah, I mean, what drives me, and my big idea is that we are actually, showing people and investing in people who have oftentimes not had the opportunity, right? And so my big idea is that 3 to 4 years from now, we will have franchisees who not only are successful in their one store, but maybe have multiple stores, are able to have economic mobility and create wealth for their families, are able to have, even if they have a dream of buying a house or just investing money and having money saved, that is when that's when I feel like I'll be successful. And so everyone that's in the program, so the 6 that are in the program now, a lot of them talk about, hey, I never thought that this would be an opportunity for me. So the big idea for me is like, hey, showing folks that if you invest in people, particularly people who have not had those opportunities, it will pay off not only from a social perspective, but also financially. And their success is our success. So our big idea is that our franchisees, 4 or 5 years from now, we'll have maybe 60 or so. They'll have multiple stores. They'll have money in the bank. They'll be, thriving personally, professionally, and then also being role models in the communities that they serve. And so that's my big idea.
All right. Thank you for that. Christine, I'm going to come back to you about to ask what your big idea is and what drives you to do what you do every day.
Yeah. I mean, look, Lisa, when you look at women and minorities in our industry, right? Oversaturated in hourly worker, like frontline hourly worker level. But as you ascend the ranks, their representation decreases, right? So when you get to the executive level, it's just the percentage of minorities and women in those roles is so low. And so my big idea is to level up the next generation of hospitality leadership and talent in our industry with really the goal of redistributing power and wealth by creating pathways to ownership, right? And pathways to leadership. And so my work at Everytable, my work at Gleam with the CAP program, that is my life's work. I want to empower the next generation of leaders. I want to empower those who have been historically disempowered, right? Who haven't been given that opportunity, and really show them a pathway and get them on their way into upper levels of management and into ownership.